And let's listen to Ginie from Holland. Ginie, very most welcome. And tell us more. What about quitting from teaching? Is this a possibility? What is happening that you could share with us? And what are your concerns and opportunities for the future? Thank you. Please present yourself.
Thank you very much. For those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Ginie Servant-Miklos. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Clinical Psychology at Erasmus University, Rotterdam in the Netherlands. But my field of interest is much broader than psychology. I'm interested in the times we live in, the consequences of human activity on the planet, and what kinds of futures it draws out, and the possibilities and impossibilities for humankind moving forward. So I'm somewhere between a philosopher, a psychologist, and a futurologist. And my main question is, what can education do in this time and in this process? And I will try to connect all the thoughts I've been having recently about what's happening, or as Slavoj Žižek would say, what happens when we are living in the end times, and how this connects in some ways to the crisis in the teaching profession at the moment. If you will allow me, I would like to propose an analysis of the 5 stages of grief that education is currently going through. For those who are not familiar with the 5 stages of grief, I refer to the work of Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, a psychiatrist from the 1960s from Switzerland. The 5 stages that she identified in dying and terminally ill patients were denial, anger, bargaining, despair, acceptance. These stages were not meant to be a prescription on how to die. They were not meant to be either linear or understood literally in all cases in all patients. This is something that she developed from studying over 200 patients with terminal illness. And it's always a bit fraught to try and make a comparison between a terminally ill person, because the outcome is predetermined. When you have a terminal illness, you will die. The outcome of the end times we are living in are not written yet. There is unfortunately a frightening possibility that we may indeed all die, but this is not written, and what happens next is up to us. So how does this connect to education, and why would I suggest that education is going through its 5 stages of grief? Let us begin with denial. Education worldwide is in a state of entrancement to neoliberalism, the idea that education is a commodity like any other that should be traded on a market, and therefore it is not a public but a private good that people should purchase and should make rational decisions about whether to invest or not in their education in order to get a return on their human capital investment. This has led to chronic underfunding in education for decades, not because there wasn't money there, but as an actual ideological commitment to privatizing education. At the same time as this process and this financialization of education is happening, the entire content and curriculum of all educations worldwide is in denial about the times that we're living in. No student who comes into my climate crisis class is prepared for what I'm about to hit them with. They feel like I've just taken a sledgehammer to their lives because they've been lied to by their education systems their whole lives. So this is not the teacher's fault. They are made to do this. We are made to teach as though abundance will never end. We are made to teach as though the plant has no boundaries. We are made to teach as though growth is not only infinite, but necessary. We are made to teach about quantities, profit as the driving motive of humankind, self-responsibility. All of these values are instigated in students from primary school all the way to university. And at no point is anyone realistic about the serious challenges we are facing at any point, from the moment a child enters kindergarten all the way until they leave university. It is possible for someone to come out with an MBA and still not be capable of naming planetary boundaries. That is a form of denial. that not only is a disservice to the education system, but it also means we have entire generations of students who are graduating from university now, somewhere between 5 and 10 years before the complete collapse of civilization as we know it, and are completely unprepared to deal with it. Anger. When students realize that they've been lied to, when teachers realize what they're being forced to teach, a lot of anger comes out. How is it possible that I've been through 18 years of education and this is the first time I hear about this? Students are furious. In my country, we have a notorious tendency to barricade universities whenever we feel like we've been betrayed. The Dutch are hopelessly passive by comparison. I have at times mooted the possibility of barricading the rector's office, but my suggestion hasn't been followed up. But make no mistake, when things start to really hurt, and I think we are not years, but only a couple of months away from things really hurting. The gas reserves in Europe are not full. We're going to have a very hard winter. We're not ready. The universities are not ready. The schools are not ready. What happens when you have to choose between firing a teacher or firing up your heating system this winter? And there will be anger and teachers will be on strike. We're already seeing the rail systems paralyzed by strikes. Wait until all the teachers walk out. This is going to be, make no mistake, a difficult winter, and I cannot see the situation getting easier thereafter as anger bites. So what do we do to try and cope with all this anger? We bargain. We create these kind of fetishes. Here, have a few more computers, have a few more iPads, that'll solve the problem. We create diversity and inclusion offices. We create sustainability committees, this, here, that, there, anything but to fundamentally change the essence of the curriculum. We try to bargain that if maybe we change a little bit here, a little bit there, we can save the system as it is and we don't really have to change. We don't really have to confront ourselves with what's really in front of us. But bargaining is a psychological trick. It doesn't actually work because the system is so fundamentally unstable that it will fall apart. And if we do not take care of the problem will take care of us. Unfortunately, this is what's happening in education with teachers walking out and school programs closing. We do not take care of the problem takes care of itself in ways in which we don't have any control. And the outcomes are much worse than if we had actually handled the problem. Okay, so bargaining doesn't work. Where do we go from there? The next stage is depression. I think this is where we are right now. I think this is why so many students have dire mental health problems. During the pandemic, we lost a couple of students in my faculty due to suicide. Teachers are walking out. This is a very dire time to be in education. Not to mention the dissonance that comes with having to teach as though the world were going to carry on as it is forever while knowing that it's not. So in psychoanalytic terms, teachers are in what is called the depressive position. They are ambivalent towards their work because they care about the students. They believe they are doing some good, but at the same time, they also see that they are absolutely not in a position to help the students prepare for what's coming. Their hands are tied, they cannot. And when this ambivalence cannot be resolved, we enter a period of what is known in psychoanalysis as melancholia. I believe our teachers are melancholic. They suffer from unresolved mourning. And for many of them, the answer is simply to shut down. To shut down, to go on burnout leave, and or to leave the profession. But what about the fifth stage, acceptance? I mean, it's one thing to accept that if you have cancer and it's terminal that you're going to die. That's one thing. But could we ask the same of teachers to just accept that this is how it is? This is where I think there is a limit to the application of the model of grieving as it was developed for dying patients by Kubler-Ross, and the application of grief theory to the times that we're living through. The grief we're living through calls for a revolution of sorts. Acceptance is not simply accepting and passively waiting for collapse. I think that that is a form of denial or a form of depression or a bit of both. Acceptance is a kind of revolutionary hope that we can do things better. And perhaps walking out of one classroom that cannot be saved opens up the opportunity to walk into another classroom of a different sort. Let's be honest, within 10 years, I doubt that we will have a publicly funded education system at all, given the constraints on public finances that are going to emerge from all the crises we're living through. So perhaps this mass resignation is a moment to already start planning what comes next. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be cheap, but then nothing of what's coming ahead of us in the next 2, 5, 10, 20, 50 years is going to be easy. And I do think that teachers, for all their resilience, all their knowledge and all their courage, are among the few who are capable of leading us forward in this revolution. That was my contribution.